Are you ready to make some Christmas decor on a super tight budget? Well, stay tuned. Hi, my name is Leslie, and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIY and home decor and more. Today I have for you 7 of the most adorable Christmas DIYs that you can do for almost no money at all, just using things from nature and scraps you already have. Now, don't forget to stick around until the very end and I'll have a hint on one of next week's projects. So, let's get started. Let's take a quick sneak peek into all 7 of today's projects. Aren't they so sweet? And that will bring us to project number 1. I love this little acorn snowman so much. Now, I went out foraging for a bunch of acorns and found these big ones. To make this snowman, you are going to need 2 without the caps and 1 with the cap, and we're going to paint them all white. Now, the first one with the cap, we're going to paint white up underneath the cap. And to make sure that they glue easy together, we're going to clip off the little bumpy at the bottom and then sand that down if you need to so that it's flat. So we're going to take an angled paintbrush and our white chalk paint and paint everything from the cap down. This will be the head of our snowman. The next 2 pieces, we are also going to clip the little bottom piece, and we are going to paint those white as well. Before you use acorns to craft with that are live from nature, you need to make sure and prepare them properly. The first step to preparing them is to rinse them all really good, get all the dirt and the bugs and whatnot off. Then you're going to place them on a piece of parchment paper on top of a baking sheet and throw them into an oven about 170 degrees. You'll let them sit in there for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And when I did mine, I just turned the stove off or the oven off and left them there through the night. And that prepared them well. The first bunch I only left in for an hour, and then I put them in a sealed container and they molded. So don't do as I did. Do it the right way and make sure your acorns are prepped properly. Then we're going to take our black paint marker and we are going to paint on eyeballs and buttons and a little smile. Once we've got that done, we're going to grab our air dry clay, and this is Modelite clay in the white color. I buy it at Walmart. It's about $5 for a little tub. And I like this one the best of all the air dry clays because it's really easy to work with. It dries really well and it stays white, so it takes paint really well too. But if you need something to stay white, most air dry clays, even if they're white, they dry kind of grayish. So I made a little carrot nose and attached it onto his face. Then I grabbed some pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly and a tad of water because my orange is really needing to be replaced. And so I kind of made it into a little watercolor and painted his nose. Then I'm going to glue together. So we'll glue the 2 pieces, middle ends together, leaving the flat for the top and the flat for the bottom so that he sits. Now we are going to make him some little stick arms. So I just grabbed some sticks from outside, and these had little nubs on the end, which I thought was kind of cool. They made really cute snowman hands, and we'll glue those on. Once we've gotten both arms glued on, then we are going to make him a little scarf with some of the leftover fabric from last week's projects. Now, like I told you last week, I love to use similar fabrics or the same fabric on multiple projects. I think it adds cohesiveness. If you missed out on last week's projects, go back and check that out. I'll have it linked below. Once I've got all the frayed edges taken off, I will tie this around his neck and trim it off just a little bit, and he is complete. Now, because I have clay on hand and the little scrap of fabric, he actually cost me nothing to make. Isn't he so stinking cute? I love the little hands off the buds on the branches. Ginger and I just wanted to pop in here real quick and tell you how much we appreciate you being here, whether this is your first time or whether you're a loyal subscriber, and y'all know who you are. We appreciate you choosing to spend time with us. Now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Let's get back to crafting. And that brings us to project number 2. I love this reindeer so much. I just think he is so adorable. So I found these little gumballs off of a sorghum tree. They were on the ground, already all dried out, and I grabbed 3 of those and picked the ones that would be a good complementary size, 2 for a body, 1 for a head. Glued the 2 body ones together. Then I poured out all my acorns, trying to pick through different size caps and different acorn heads because we're going to use those in this project. Then I grabbed a pile of sticks from outdoors, trimmed those down to make 4 legs. So we'll cut them all the same size-ish. You can always trim them down. Now you'll notice I'm using my handy dandy little snippers I got from Harbor Freight. So here we are going to go ahead and get the legs glued on. Now I picked sticks that were about the same size around to make the legs so that they're all about the same. Then I grabbed a little pine cone piece, trimmed off the bottom, trimmed it into kind of a V shape at the bottom, and glued that in for his little tail. The thing I love about using this sorghum ball is there's all those little holes and divots, and it makes it really easy to set legs and tails and ears and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and get that all set. Make sure that stands up really good. Then we will grab an acorn cap and trim off the little round part at the top where the stem was and glue that on so that the open side is up. That would normally be on top of the acorn. Then we are going to make his little head. We're going to grab 2 more little pine cone pieces, trim those down. These are going to be his ears. And then I grabbed 2 more pieces of the stick like what we used on our snowman earlier. And these have the little bud pieces on. I thought were the perfect little faux antlers. Then we will glue on those pine cone pieces as his little ears. Then we have little tiny pine cone pieces that we are going to use as a nose, and I'll go in with a Sharpie marker and add 2 little dots for his nose. Then I'm going to add 2 even tinier pine cone pieces. These are the ones that you can kind of find growing at the stem of the pine cone, or not the pine cone, the acorn. So they're acorn pieces, but they're the little tiny ones that are kind of making like baby acorns. And we'll glue those on. And then I added little dots on later for his eyeballs. We're going to glue in that little cap to set his head. And isn't he so cute? And literally, he cost me nothing except a little hot glue and a little bit of Sharpie marker. And that brings us to project number 3. I love this one too. I love just the festiveness of it. So we're going to take kind of a misshapen acorn, and using my wire snips, I'm going to trim that off so we kind of have a flat base. This is going to be the body. Now you don't have to find a misshapen pine cone. You can just cut off a piece big enough for the body. And then I have another pine cone we'll be using as a tree. Then I went out to the garage and I grabbed some of this foam that came in some box of something that we got and cut a couple pieces off. Then I grabbed this scrap brown paper, and we are going to use that as wrapping paper to wrap our little foam presents. So you can just fold this any kind of way you want to wrap it up. I folded mine into a little square there and then hot glued. Now be cautious. If you hot glue onto that foam, it'll melt. So I don't know if you noticed, I got a little divot there from where it melted into my foam. After this, I just hit the glue on the paper, and that way I didn't have to worry about it melting. And we're going to fold that over kind of like a present. We'll do that to all 4 pieces. And then we are going to grab some baker's twine. Now I just grabbed whatever colors I had available. If you don't have baker's twine, you can also use just regular twine, or you could use that cotton twine stuff that you use like in cooking, whatever you've got available. Then we are going to, I mixed up a couple of different colors of green, and we're going to give that Christmas tree a nice green paint. Now, I didn't get real fussy with it, but I did go for a bigger coverage, more coverage here. Then I just grabbed the dark green color that I had. I don't remember where I bought this from, but I just splat some on the bottom, and we'll go ahead and give the bottom a darker green color there. Then we are going to grab a twig and make a little trunk for our tree. So I'll grab my little snippers from Harbor Freight and snip that down. A little bit of hot glue, and we'll have a little standing tree. So we're going to glue our little standing tree to our wood round here. Now this is just something that my husband cut out of our yard. We had some a tree die, and he cut it, and then he cut it up, and he made me some wood slices. If you don't have wood slices, no worries. You don't have to go buy anything. You could actually just decorate a styrofoam plate or a paper plate or even a piece of cardboard and do this project on there. So we are gluing down our presents. Now we are going to be making our little present opener, or present, maybe he's wrapping presents, our present wrapper. We're going to make him some little legs. And then we're going to take some of these tops from the acorns, and I found a couple that had a real kind of deep bowl on them. And I'm going to use my utility knife, and I'm going to kind of drill a little hole in there with that utility knife. That's where we're going to stick our little twig leg. Now our twig legs, I kind of used ones that had little bends to them, so it kind of looks like he's sitting there with his knees bent and his shoes on the ground. So we got his little pine cone shoe going on there, and we'll make a second one for the other side doing the same thing. We're going to drill out that center and put his little leg through there, and that will be his second leg. Then we'll need to come in and find some little twig arms. Now I'm going to use one that's kind of bent a little bit and one that's a little more straight. So I just kind of picked through my twigs and found the sizes I wanted. Now I made these twigs a little bit thinner than the leg twigs so that they look like arms. Then I'm going to be pulling out that little bow I made on my present, and that will go into his hand. So now we're going to glue this all together. So I'll glue the 2 stick legs onto the bottom of the pine cone, and then we'll glue the 2 arms inside the pine cone. So you'll just want to trim whatever little pieces of that pine cone you need to, so that he sits straight and that his legs and arms fit in there. So we'll go ahead and give that arm just a little bit of glue and stick that into the pine cone, making sure that it's secure, and also making sure that it will be in the direction and that we want it. So we'll go ahead and glue our twine on there. That way we know that his arm is in the right position and we can get everything set there. Then we'll go ahead and glue in his second arm, and we are going to make sure that this one faces down onto the present, and that way he's holding it while he's either wrapping or unwrapping. Then I found one of these little fuzzy acorn tops. You'll find these mostly on the very young acorns. Gave it a quick smattering of some ivory chalk paint, glued that onto the top of our acorn head. I forgot to show you, I painted his little cap red.
Then we took some of those little baby acorns and glued those on his eyeballs. Look at that. We have an acorn cap on top of his little pine cone body. That's what we'll glue our head to. So we're going to go ahead and get his seat glued down, get his present glued down, make sure his shoes are glued down, and his present and his hand down to the twine there, glue on his little head. Then we will do a little bit of embellishing on the tree. I just grabbed a pick that was in my scraps that I have used several times and pulled off some of these little berries. I grabbed a star from my craft supplies that had a tip broken off of it and gave it a little bit of gold paint, and this project is complete. I love it so much. I just think it's so quintessential Christmas. What do you guys think? Which is your favorite so far? Let me know in the comments below. That will bring us to project number 4. I love the simplicity and rusticness of this little pine cone Christmas tree. I grabbed these mini tree cones at Hobby Lobby. They're 50% off now, so the 6 of them cost me $2, and that's what I used. But if you don't want to buy the cones, you can actually just take a stiff brown paper and make it into your own cone, so then you can have whatever size tree you want. Then I just took pine cones and my handy dandy little snippers there from Harbor Freight, and I want to tell you, that was the best $3 investment I've made. They come with a lifetime guarantee. I've already broken one pair and they just replaced it. Anyway, I snipped off the pieces of the pine cone and grabbed some hot glue, and we are just going to glue these on so that the pine cone piece is on the bottom and the little inside piece is going up to the top. And just a little bit of hot glue. You want to make sure that it sits so that your pine cone tree sits flat. So you'll run it just a little bit off the edge there, and you'll just keep gluing and adding pine cone pieces all the way around. Now for this particular project, the bigger pine cone pieces work best, just because you'll have to put fewer of them on there and fewer of them to cut. And then you'll just go in with your second layer. So I'm going to show you here real quick. And I tried to get the second layer kind of in between the pieces of the first layer, gluing right there, right on top of the long pieces from the pine cone. And you'll just continue this all the way up. So just adding your pine cone pieces and trimming more pine cones, and this little tree didn't take very long. Now you'll see you get some of those little strings of glue. When you're done with your project, if you just take your blow dryer, or if you have a heat gun, you can just blow those off and they'll come right off. As I got closer to the tip of the tree, then I grabbed smaller, kind of thinner pieces, and that way we could make a tree topper, so that it looked finished. So you'll notice as I come to the top, I'm using pieces that come together all as one, and then securing them up at the top. Now I thought it needed a little star, so I grabbed a tiny little pine cone and added it to the top. Kind of looks like a pineapple pine cone there. But I just love the simplicity. And that brings us to project number 5. This one is also super simple. We're just going to grab a real nice full pine cone, and this is just a ping pong ball from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to give it a coat of white so that it's not so stark and shiny. So we'll paint some white chalk paint on there, and then I just took what was left on my brush and I just gave it a quick pat down through the pine cone. So unlike the pine cone from the last project, we're not going to give this as full of a coverage. We're just going to make it little white. So you can see I never even added any more paint to my paintbrush. We're just hitting it with what we've got. Then I grabbed this little wood round. Now I found these on, I think this one came from dirt cheap. They're doing clearance out, so I bought a whole package of them. There was like 30 or 40 in it for $1. And then I grabbed another little pine cone and painted it black, so those will be his little top hat. Then I'm going to do a quick little crochet for his scarf. I had this scrap yarn that was left over from a blanket I made for one of my daughters years ago, and we're just going to do our beginning stitch, which is just wrapped around and pulled through and pulled tight. And then I did 25, I think, maybe it was 30 single crochet stitch, or this is a chain stitch, so we're just going to do a chain stitch, 25 or 30 or so stitches. Really just depends on how big your snowman is. Then we're going to do what I call a half stitch. So we go in through the hole and grab the yarn, pull it through, and then pull it through the piece on your crochet needle. Now, if you don't have a crochet needle and you don't know how to crochet, no worries. You could just braid yourself a scarf or grab some scrap fabric you have, or just, put 2 or 3 lengths of yarn together and make it into a scarf. Then I grabbed some of our Model Light air dry clay and fashioned him a little nose. This is my favorite way to make little snowman noses. Got just a little bit too big for his face there, and once I've gotten that all made into that carrot shape, we're going to give it a dash of that orange pumpkin paint color by Waverly, and then we are going to use our paint marker and some paints to paint him on a little face. So I gave him some little eyebrows and little eyeballs. And I need to replace my paint markers. I use them so frequently and they are running out of paint. Then we'll grab him a little halfway smile, kind of give him some character. Here's our black chalk paint or ink color by Waverly. We're just going to grab a little detail brush and kind of finish out his little face there. Then we will grab a little bit of white chalk paint and paint some highlights onto his little eyeballs. After we get that done, we'll grab our hot glue and glue his little nose on. Then we'll glue his little hat on his head. Give it a nice big dollop there. Now I love to use Gorilla hot glue. What kind of hot glue do you guys use? Let me know in the comments below. Once we've got his hat all situated, I'm going to take my scissors and create a little hole where he can fit on the top of the pine cone. That will give him several places to be glued on there. Then we'll take our little scarf and wrap it around his little neck. Now, because I made his scarf a little short-ish, I'm just going to add a dab of hot glue and secure that in place, and this project is complete. I think he is so stinking cute. Now, if you don't have a white ping pong ball from the Dollar Tree, no worries. You can grab more of that air dry clay and make him a head. That brings us to project number 6. I love this one too. I know I've said it for everyone. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I just thought this was so adorable. I just grabbed 3 pine cones. They're the small ones, and a little wood round that I had in my scrap wood pile, and some scrap beads, and some scrap fabric, and a little bit of twigs. You'll see the picture. So we are going to trim off kind of the top of that pine cone. Now I did one slightly bigger for Joseph, one slightly smaller for Mary, and one small one for baby Jesus. And I am going to glue the little beads on there so that the ends are at the top and the bottom, the holes where you would normally be running a string through those, because we're going to cover up the top of their heads. So we'll glue those beads on there. Now we have our 3 figures, and we're going to grab a paint marker and paint on some little eyeballs. Once we've gotten the eyeballs on there, then we are going to grab our little scrap of dowel and paint that white. Then I have a star from my craft stash, and I am going to paint that gold. Once we've gotten once the white paint on the dowel had dried, I went ahead and just glued the star on it. It made it easier to paint this way. That way I wasn't getting more paint all over my fingers. And once I've gotten that all painted, then I will set that aside. Now we're going to add a little bit of blush onto their cheeks. I just grabbed some pink eyeshadows. That seems to work the best for me. I've tried all kinds of other things, you know, paint and watercolors and even the what are those oil pastel crayons. This works best. Then I just grabbed a little white paint marker and added little white highlights onto their cheeks. We'll set that aside. Then we'll grab our scrap fabric after we glue on our little star onto our wood round. This is another one of those that my husband just cut for me. So here's our scrap fabric. It's left over from something we did at Halloween or fall time. And I'm just cutting out the piece that has the white and gray stripes on it. So you can use, you know, whatever scrap muslin or whatever, you know, kind of fabric like that. You could even use burlap or whatever you have in your craft supplies. I mean, don't go out and buy anything. I'm sure you have something that you could use. Even, you know, leftover dish towel or those tea towels. I like to use that for fabric from the Dollar Tree. So we're going to glue that onto the head and kind of wrap that around. So this will be Mary. So we're making hers look more like, you know, a girl's little clothes there. And this will be Joseph. So we're going to make him look more like a little shepherd. Little boy there. Glue it onto the top of his head and then glue it around the back and trim it off as necessary and glue it on so that it stays next to his body. Of course, this fabric frays a little bit, which just adds to the rusticness of the craft. Now, you'll notice I have some little gold ribbon stuff over there. I never did use it. I thought about making little halos, but it just didn't seem like it needed it. So we're just going to glue those down to the bodies, make sure that everything is staying. And then we will take this last little scrap piece and we'll wrap up baby Jesus in it so that he can go in his little manger. Now, speaking of manger, get ready for this. It's going to be such a treat. I can see some of you now. Look at Leslie grabbing some yard debris and making it into a craft. And that's precisely what we're going to do in just 1 second. So we're going to take some of these sticks and I'm going to cut some down, trying to figure out exactly what's going to be the perfect size for baby Jesus. And then I grabbed a couple little thicker pieces, and you can see we're going to build a little manger out of these little scrap sticks from outdoors. So once I've gotten those trimmed down to the size, I'm going to angle off the bottoms. That way we can make sure that it stands up straight when you set it down on the piece of craft. On the piece of wood, we'll glue those into little X's. So we'll make 2 little X's, and then we're going to take our other pieces that we trimmed off earlier and make 2 of those, and those will go inside the little manger to finish it off, you know, kind of like a cradle kind of look. So once we've gotten the 2 X's done, we'll grab those other 2 pieces, trim off a couple more. Of course, I'm a little OCD, so we got to clean off our work surface just a little bit. Once we've gotten those all trimmed, then we are going to put a little glue on one end and add that to one of our X's and take a little glue on the other X and connect that together, and we'll do the same thing on the other side, and then the last 2 will be kind of the center of the manger. So we'll just put a couple little glue dots on there and put those on and finish it off. Once we've got that all done and baby Jesus is in his little manger, we are going to take some of this little scrap straw and glue some inside the manger. Then we're also going to glue some all over that wood round to give it the little barn appearance. And this just came, actually it was in a bag of some little figurines that my mom had given me years ago, and I want to say this is kind of like the packing to keep them safe. But you can buy that straw at the Dollar Tree in the little tiny bales, or I mean, honestly, you could just use dead grass if you had it. No need to go buy anything. Or if you have the Spanish moss, you could use that too. So we're just going to glue all these pieces together now. We're going to glue little baby Jesus into his little manger, and this project is complete. I love this so much. What do you guys think? I just think it is so sweet and just, gives that nice little rustic appeal. And again, pretty much cost me nothing. Just use what you have, and you'd be surprised at the things you can do. And that will bring us to our final project, project number 7. And I have been waiting to do this since I collected these acorns. I just threw it up on the mantle so you could kind of see what it looks like. But at Christmas, I have a whole thing planned, so get ready for it. I am going to take my handy dandy little pink drill, and we're going to drill just at the base of the little cap. And I drilled halfway through, then drilled the rest of the way through, and then took a doll needle that I put some twine on, and I am just going to pull that through the hole. So that's all it is too, just drill the hole in through. And I just picked a drill bit that was the size of the needle that I was using. Just be careful, you don't want to hit your fingers, but if you hold your finger on either side of that acorn and then only drill halfway through, and that way you have control when you finish out the rest. Now if you don't have a drill, no worries, grab a finishing nail and a hammer, and you can use that finishing nail. Now I went and grabbed a little block so I didn't nail it into my table. We're going to, and then I nailed it into the block and had to pull it out. I figured out a better way to do this, so we're going to nail it in part way and then pull it kind of off the side of the block so that it's protected. Now, if you don't have real acorns, no worries. You can grab these fake ones from the Dollar Tree, and honestly, this would be much easier to probably make a garland with because there's no holes, no muss, no fuss. You can just take your doll needle with your twine on it, and you can just pull it right through just like that. Voila. And I think there's 10 to a package, so how many ever packages you need. I think I did probably 80 or so acorns. Now I'm just going to take the ends and fold it over and tie it into a knot, and that gives us something to hold on to when we are stringing this across our mantelpiece. And I'll do the same thing to the other end, and this project is complete. I love it, and I can't wait for it to be up there with my greenery and all my decor on my mantle at Christmas time. I'll make sure and give you guys a picture when I get that done. And that is the end of our video today. I'm so sad, but here is another look at all of the projects we made today. I am loving them all, but tell me what is your favorite in the comments down below. If you make any of today's creations, I would love to see pictures of them. So please email me at happytuesdaydiy@gmail.com and share with me your take on the creations. I also want to say how much I do appreciate you guys. We are almost at 5,000 subscribers. So if you're not already part of our Happy Tuesday family, if you would consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, last year I made a whole video on Christmas hacks with pine cones, and I'll link that in the comments below.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really did enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around to the very end, here's your hint on next week's projects. We are going to recycle, reuse, and repurpose. But until then, make it a great day and Happy Tuesday!